Hello, friend!
Hello!
And welcome to Strange New Borgcast 1.1.
It's a strange new world.
It is indeed, yes. Rather unimpressively, the first episode of Strange New Worlds is called Strange New Worlds, which is rather what they did with Lower Decks, and lacks imagination, I can't help feeling.
Better than Pilot.
Yes, but not as good as all the other Trek series that actually have proper names for their first story, but there we go. It's written by Akiva Goldsman. Amongst others, he wrote the first episodes of Discovery and Picard, so he's the guy they got in to produce New Trek after Brian Fuller moved on.
Oh, okay.
It's also directed by him as well.
Cool.
I have a first contact scenario that may have gone bad.
Sorry to hear that. It's not my problem.
The officer in command is someone I trust.
You're not hearing me, Bob. We both agreed that I'd have until Enterprise left Space Dock before deciding
But then we lost contact with her ship.
I'm not sure what this has to do with...
Here's her last transmission. We haven't heard from her since.
First contact is just a dream. Until one day, it isn't. I suspect a new world will be joining Federation soon.
Your first officer doesn't do downtime well, Chris. Mine used to be a lot like that. I'm pulling Enterprise out of Space Dock.
She's still on scheduled maintenance.
She can skip the redundant systems checks. I want her crewed up and ready to fly by 1800.
Send someone else.
It opens with red alert.
Yes.
Warp, warp.
Except it's not a Starship Red Alert.
No, it's a Ninor on a wall. And you get narration, which you later find out is by number one.
Mm-hmm.
But you're following this person around, and as she turns around, you see, ba, 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 it's an alien. And this is first contact, but we're seeing this from the alien's point of view.
Which they have done before, of course.
Oh, that Riker creepy one.
Yeah, First Contact, not that one.
Yeah.
In season 4 of Next Generation. So it's slightly old hat beginning, but never mind.
So yeah, they see the Enterprise for this time. It's the first time. It's like, oh wow.
It's not the Enterprise though.
Oh no, it's not. It's the Archer, isn't it?
Yes.
And then you've got Pike at home, and he's watching a black and white movie. What movie is it? I'm sure it must be one of them famous ones.
Yes, it is. It's that film that I still haven't seen, The Day the Earth Stood Still.
Okay.
The original, obviously, not the Keanu Reeves one.
Okay.
We have Pike with a beard.
Yes, beardy Pike, and he's cooking, which there'll be a lot more of. And then in his bed is a woman, and I didn't quite catch her name. It sounded like Captain Batal, but...
Very close, Batel, yes.
Oh, well, okay, not far.
Who, by the... spoilers, but I'm kind of imagining most people have already watched the whole series now, but she crops up in the last episode of the season. By the time we got through to that one, I was like, who is that person? Are we supposed to know who that is? Because I don't think she appears again in the rest of the series. Melanie Scrofano. She was in the Dire Robocop remake, but we won't hold that against her.
And she says, your phone's ringing, which just totally took me to a Big Lebowski place.
Where you going, dude?
Going home, Donnie.
Phone's ringing, dude.
Thank you, Donnie.
And you notice their communicators are right by an actual old-style dial telephone as well.
Yeah.
So it's yet another captain who's into his, antiques.
Yeah. No, but it's not the type the dude carries around.
No.
And then Batal says, are we going to talk about what's going on and what's not going on? He said, it's classified, which we know it is. And then she's like, lovely pancakes, breakfast. And she says that breakfast is delicious, and she just eats one corner of a pancake and one berry, which is not actually so bad.
Nobody eats in TV, you should know that. It messes up the continuity if they do, so...
Okay. And then Pike's out horse riding, because of course he is, because he's a captain of the Enterprise, so he must be. It's a very nice horse, though. And then the shuttle spooks his horse, and he does a very good job not to be thrown. So whoever did the stunt riding on that did well. And it's Admiral, you said who it was.
Robert April, yes. I think he's only referred to as Bob in this.
Okay.
But yeah, he's
not Bob the Builder.
He's not Bob the Builder, he's Bob the Admiral.
Bob the Admiral, can you fly it, or something?
Yes, maybe. Famously the first captain of the Enterprise. Crops up in the animated series. Looking rather different, I think it's fair to say.
Bit a la Nick Fury.
Yeah, basically. This is, yes. They've Nick Fury'd him. Which, it's very hard to hold the animated series in continuity with the rest of Trek, so that one I can let slip. Other issues later on with recasting, slightly more irksome, but this one doesn't bother me at all.
Okay. And he says that Una's gone missing, because it was first contact and nothing's been heard of since. Needs the Enterprise crewed up and out, and Pike's like, you said I had this time, and it's like, we've had to cut it short now, and orders him back. And then he's going back onto the Enterprise, and then you have the theme tune, and I like this version of the theme tune.
Yes, it's good. I like that tune. It's one of the shorter teasers of the season, and it's still 6 minutes long.
Yeah.
But they go for long teasers in this. And yeah, the credits are beautiful, aren't they? With the gradual reveal of the Enterprise with the lights coming on. And it's kind of like every episode starts like the beginning of the motion picture, but obviously not quite so long, which is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I like the very sort of end bit.
It's sort of the X-Files ending to the theme tune. Yes,
Yeah.
that's quite nice, isn't it?
I like that. Then you're on Vulcan, and you've got Spock and T'Pring.
Well, it says they're at Raal. Now, I don't know if that's the place on Vulcan.
Yes, it's Raal Vulcan, so
There
I
we
presume
are,
it must
yeah.
be a city or something.
Yeah.
Or
Apparently, it's name-checked in Voyager as well. So
right, that's nice.
Indeed.
And you get this whole query answer, and then like, would it not be better to just ask the question? It's very weird. And, oh, you're wearing ritual mating colours. Do you have a question for me? It's just really peculiar.
Very Vulcan. But yes, it's T'Pring, everybody, which is an interesting addition, and she will crop up again in other stories. On the basis that if you watch the original series, you'll know where that plot arc's going to. So it's rather hard to connect with her, I think it's fair to say. Because, you know, there's just it's building up to something bad, basically.
Yeah.
So it means you're not rooting for her and Spock, because you know how that works out. But there we go.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how they get it to fit, because at the moment it just doesn't.
Well, it does. I don't think that's an issue.
I thought he said that it was just a bomb made when they were an agreement made when they were children, and that.
You could be right. I'm not sure.
And he hasn't seen her for years.
Well, as and when we cover that episode, we'll be able to poke holes in this possibly then, but we shall see.
That was my memory of it, and that therefore this does not fit.
A mock time, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah.
I'd have to sneak a watch of that just to see. It has to be said, I've never imagined Spock being this ripped. It doesn't seem right somehow, possibly just because of Leonard Nimoy's build. Has always been thin and, sort of rake-like, not, massive bulging biceps like this version of Spock is. Perhaps it's just a phase he's going through. I don't know. He spends all his time in the gym. Well, he will do later on.
Yeah.
Oh dear, there's a bit of slash fiction for you folks.
Yeah. I don't have I realise that there's potentially a continuity issue here, but I don't have an issue with the idea that Starfleet officers are ripped, because they've got to be very muscular to be very fit to do their job.
I don't have a problem with some Starfleet officers, particularly security officers, obviously being ripped. It's just Spock never was, because Nimoy never was. Let's face it, this is the problem. They struggle with the recasting of characters, and this will rear its head later on as well. They just don't feel right. And none of the variations on non-Nimoy Spocks has ever seemed like Spock, I'm afraid, to me. And this one is just too pumped.
I wasn't really aware of that. I guess I'm used to it now, the idea that this is now what...
And also, I think Spock ought to be more uptight at this point. He hasn't spent so much time around humans, and he seems quite relaxed and... Anyway,
well, we don't know what's gonna happen, but I don't have an issue with the idea that he's ripped or not ripped. I mean, if he's older when we see him, then maybe he doesn't go down the gym as often. For now,
well, not that gym anyway.
Yeah, and then his beeper goes off, and he says, "No, duty calls," and so he answers it, and he's from the waist up, he's naked, and you get like going, "Are you naked?" And T'Pring goes, "No, but he was about to be."
Which again doesn't feel very Vulcan phrase, but there we go.
No. Anyway, they're going back to the Enterprise. Pike is shaved, and so he gets the shuttle Stamets. How do they get away with naming it if they...
Well, I guess I'm trying to remember what the resolution of the Discovery thing was now.
They were all wiped from everybody's memories, weren't
well,
they?
It wasn't like they never existed, was it?
I thought so. They were never allowed to talk about them.
They certainly couldn't talk about what happened to them. But, I mean, Stamets would have had... a lot of them would have had families and stuff, so I guess they told them all they were dead. Lost or something. I hesitate to say we need to rewatch Discovery, because I'm not sure I've got the energy for that on top of everything else, but yeah.
I thought they all had to forget them all or something.
Certainly they had to forget Michael, didn't they?
But why can you remember the others and not Michael?
I don't know, but it doesn't work, does it?
No.
And we said it at the time. It's just silly. Let's pretend these people didn't exist. And here they are naming shuttles after one of them, so...
Yeah. So he takes the shuttle nearly there and then transports over?
Yeah. Now, Memory Alpha says they fly up to transporter range and then transport, but they're right by the ship. We know they can transport people down to planets because they do it later this episode. So it's not like they have to be that close to transport. So what was the point of that?
I don't know.
Beyond, I suppose, showing off the ship a bit more. But that was very silly.
Yes. And then you have Pike asking Spock how he is, and that's when you don't get Michael named, but he says, he feels his sister's loss.
We're introduced to Chief Kyle, or reintroduced, well, I suppose introduced at this stage. And this is one of the bits of recasting that is a little bit of irksome, because, of course, originally played by Leeds' own John Winston. He was the Enterprise's token Englishman, now played by Canadian Andre Day Kim, who's, how is this Kyle? That doesn't work. And I'd have no problem at all if it'd just been another crewman. But why, if you're going to make it Kyle, then at least make him look reasonably like the original Kyle? Cast somebody that reminds you of him? But no, we really don't do that.
Doesn't bother me. Kyle wasn't memorable enough for me.
Oh, he was my favourite character.
Really?
Pretty much.
Okay. Well, no, I didn't really remember him. So.
And, he crops up in Wrath of Khan and everything, and now, yes.
Fine. And then you have Pike seeing his reflection in the chair, and it's all sort of melty.
Not the chair, but his face.
Yes. And then you find out that the USS Archer went to say hello when a new warp signature was detected, but then they haven't been heard from, and this is now getting a bit worrying. And so that's where they're off to. And having given his shipwide announcement, Pike says he's off to his quarters, where he's got a fire burning there. Why?
I know. Does the heating not work in his room? This is so weird.
It's really odd. Also, given that so many of his nightmares are about fires,
yes,
you would think that maybe he wouldn't have one.
Yeah.
At least have you not thought that maybe this is one of the things that keeps triggering all these flashbacks? Maybe not have a completely unnecessary fire in there. Maybe it won't happen as much.
Just a weird choice, isn't it?
Very peculiar.
Don't understand. Why is the spaceship cold? It doesn't make any sense.
So anyway, you have another, I don't know whether you call it a flash forward or a flashback, because it's a flashback in the one sense because he lived the experience in the past, but it's a flash forward because the actual event hasn't happened yet. Spock checks in on him and guesses that this is something to do with going to Borath. And that's when Pike says he didn't just see but felt his own death, and this is all making him second guess himself. And Spock says you should seek the good in it. And then meanwhile the ship arrives at planet Kylie. I'm thinking he's Planet Jason just round the corner.
Possibly. I've just looked up Stamets, by the way, and apparently, according to Memory Alpha, he was presumed dead by Starfleet.
Right.
Based on the testimonies of the USS Enterprise senior officers. So it's not like they pretended the entire crew never existed.
They said they died. Okay, fair enough. There's no life signs, but also no signs of any bodies. You get Spock saying, fascinating, and you get Pike going, I'm all ears, and at which point Spock sort of looks at him and he's like, no, it's just a phrase. Which
I'm sure is a line that Spock actually uses himself in one of the movies, possibly, if not the original series.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, apparently, so this is the USS Archer.
Now it's time to get anal about spaceships. Woohoo!
Took a trip on a Gemini spacecraft. And thought about you.
Which is an Archer class. That's just Memory Alpha scrabbling there, because I'm sure they don't mention what class it is. It's got one nacelle. I hate that look. That is a rubbish look. It's one of the areas in which I actually agree with Roddenberry. I'm not a great fan of odd-numbered nacelles, and one is just stupid, like a canoe. And just it's very hard to tell how big it is, because you don't see it close up against the Enterprise. They always keep a distance. But the fact that you find out they only had 3 crew, how's that possible? 2 of whom were scientists, and number 1. Like, who's flying the damn ship? That makes no sense. By the way, they catch one of the recent Great Derelicts, and they have this discussion on that as well, and quite rightly agree with me that that's just stupid.
Yeah, so I couldn't tell how big it was, because for me that's what makes the key difference. Is it effectively a runabout, in which case 3
No, it's big like you look at the size of the nacelle and the saucer section. I mean, it's clearly a smaller saucer than Enterprise's, but it's still reasonably large. Why didn't they take a shuttle?
I don't know.
You've taken 3 people, you're going to take a shuttle, aren't you? You're not going to take an entire starship with 3 people flying it.
No, I don't know. And then you have La'an saying, hang on a minute, something isn't right here. There's no subspace chatter, not picking up any other ships, nothing, and they've got warp. Something's not right here.
It's Uhura that says there isn't any subspace chatter because
Yeah.
obviously she's monitoring communications.
Yeah. And it's like, we need to put the shields up. So they do, and then the planet attacks with torpedoes, and they would have been damaged had they not had the deflectors up. So it's like, okay, good call. And it turns out that the planet hasn't made a warp drive, they've made a warp bomb.
Special delivery, a burn. Were you expecting one? A burn?
So this is not good. This is not a warp capable society. It's all gone a bit wrong. But apparently General Order 1 still applies, which I don't understand. Why? I mean, okay, they're not a warp capable society, but they've got warp somehow. So surely that must naturally muddy the waters, I would think.
Well, Pike almost sort of uses that as an excuse, I guess, doesn't he? But yeah, because they've kind of they've had an impact already, as we find out.
Yeah.
So it's up to them now to try and make good some of the damage that they inadvertently did.
Yeah. But because General Order 1 applies, off they all troop to go and see the Doctor.
So, yes, we're introduced to Dr. Mbenga, who is a character that features in
one episode or two.
2 episodes of the original series, yeah. And that is a good bit of casting, to be honest. Obviously, we only saw the actor in a couple of episodes anyway, but yeah, I don't have a problem with that one. Obviously, played by Babs Olusanmoken. He was also in the Villeneuve Dune. And
I think it might be pronounced Olusanmoken. It might be an...
It might be a sh sound rather than
yeah.
I need to ask one of my Nigerian congregation members.
Yeah.
I think. Also in the US version of Life on Mars, that only made it to 11 episodes. And I'd forgotten it even existed in the first place, to be brutally honest.
More episodes than the US Red Dwarf.
Well, that's true. Oh, boy. Yeah, that managed 2 pilots, didn't it? Done.
Yeah.
We've got also Jesh. Oh, I'm adding extra S's where H's where there aren't any. Jess Bush. Don't say that too quickly. As Chapel. Well, kind of. I mean, this is nothing like Chapel.
No.
I mean,
she has got very blonde hair.
The hair colour does not make it the character. This is the thing. Why? This is clearly not the same character. She's far more lively and sociable. I mean, the way Matthew Barrett played it was all very almost Vulcan. It was quite buttoned up. But this version of Chapel is completely different. So either some massive change happened later on down the line that changed her character, or why? Anyway, not that Jess Bush is a bad actor. I mean, she's perfectly all right. It's just she never comes across as being Chapel. Also, not a fan of the white, although as you pointed out, that might be because she's technically a civilian at this point.
At this point, she's a civilian.
Because obviously, I prefer the free colours that you normally get in Starfleet, and it's not like we don't get white medical uniforms in this era. We had it in Disco with Dr. Culber. But yeah, I prefer the purity of the free colour standard, with added green option for captains who's put on a few pounds or need to be differentiated from evil duplicates. There's some genetic disguise injections to be handed out to the away team, and La'an refuses a sedative for the painful process for reasons.
Yeah, I'm not sure, having watched the entire bloody thing, that makes sense.
I don't know if it's ever explained, is it? I mean, presumably it's something to do with the experience she had with the Gorn, but...
I don't understand it.
There's a lot of mumbled dialogue from Anson Mount in this scene, which is a bit annoying as well, but there we go. Most of it, having watched it a few times, is now caught, but yeah. They beam down to Kylie, so to speak. Spock is equipped with shorts that he's not comfortable with. Who wears short shorts? They get themselves into a building where the warp signature has originated from, via La'an acting all injured and Spock administering some neck pinching. They nick the guy's clothes and beam them to sickbay to be kept under sedation. Unfortunately, this plan doesn't quite pan out and one of them escapes. Yeah. Leading to what's called a Delta Scorpy situation, whatever that
Delta Scorpy 7 or something like that, they call it.
Uhura puts the escapee at his ease, talking sports, which is quite nice.
Yeah, basically Blurns ball by the sound of it.
Yes. There's some tension on the planet too, as Spock's genetic jab is fading and his ears are breaking through. Just leave him outside, don't try him going in as well. He gets the alteration in the nick of time and not without some amusing ear wobbling. They locate Una and her Mighty 2 crew, and it's revealed that La'an knows number 1 from the past. Spock amusingly jinxes them as they go to leave, saying the way is clear, and then his disguise completely going. It's revealed
with a big scream because he just can't cope with any more.
It's revealed that Discovery's departure to the future revealed the warp tech to the Kylies. Pike takes a Kirk-like approach to General Order 1 in deciding to try and heal the damage they inadvertently did, giving himself and Spock up. It's clear he's not winning over Margaret Thatcher, who's in charge. She's very Margaret Thatcher, isn't she?
Well, she's more like Liz Truss, to be honest.
So Pike brings down the Enterprise as a show of force. Way too low in orbit for my liking, but that's sort of a pet peeve. Back on the Enterprise, La'an reveals she's the only survivor of a Gorn colony. Not believing you can die can get you killed is apparently the lesson she learned, and obviously that chimes with Pike, who beams back down in the midst of the Kylie Parliament. Showing them scenes of the idyllic Earth as it is now. Why did they call it that? Surely they must have known we would be making these jokes. Was Kylie not big in the US? I'm sure she was.
Yes, but maybe we're too old and it was...
Yeah. Anyway, he then also shows them the conflicts of the past with Civil War leading to the Eugenics War and World War III, all part of Trek rewriting history to better fit reality.
Mm.
And it's quite a sort of Picard-like speech, really, by which I mean the stirring ones of Next Generation rather than the arrogant, condescending ones of Picard.
Yeah.
We get a montage of the Kylies getting all peaceful-like and making model starships, as you do. Enterprise docks with something that riffs on the old Starbase design, but suffers from modern Trek's preoccupation with everything having to be too big and too detailed. Another victim of the high-def era, along with crazy over-complexity of the uniforms. Admiral April reveals Pike has gotten away with his General Order 1 bending, as to reveal what happened would reveal what really happened to the Discovery. They're now going to rename it the Prime Directive as a result. That will never stick.
Spick?
Oh, no. Stick, yes, Pike opines. All this has resulted in Pike wanting to return to command permanently. Oh, fairly predictably, I suppose.
Yeah.
La'an reveals more about her run-in with the Gorn, with her being rescued by Una and inspiring her to join Starfleet. And Pike reveals that the Starbase's pods were as a result of scientists during World War III sending them out to rescue flora and fauna. Is he referencing Silent Running here?
I think he is. I think he
Because they
is.
do look like the pods from Silent Running.
They do. You just need the little robots.
Oh my, no, we don't need those robots. Bloody hell. It's Silent Running. It's one of those films that's supposed to be a classic.
Boring.
It's boring, cheesy, hippie crap. I'm sorry. It's just completely on... I guess when it was one of the few sci-fi films around, it had that going for it. But now, just no excuse, I'm sorry.
Well, it might be as well that at the time it was novel, in terms of what it was portraying and everything. It may have been the first of its type.
It certainly was one of the first sci-fi films of a decent look, yes.
Yeah, but it's
But the
not
plot's
good.
awful. I'm sorry, it's just crap. Oh, we're going to send all the trees into space where they'll flourish. Lieutenant Kirk enters the bridge, but it's Sam Kirk, Jim's brother, complete with a moustache. And here, actually, it's a reasonable bit of casting, I suppose. But then again, you stick anybody with a moustache on, they look a bit like Sam Kirk.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, there are plenty of people who wouldn't look like Sam Kirk with a moustache. I mean, if you took off Brian Blessed's beard and just left him with a moustache, he wouldn't look like Sam Kirk.
It would look freaky. I don't want to even think about it. You do occasionally see pictures of him from Z Cars when he had no beard.
It looks
so
wrong.
wrong.
Yeah.
So wrong. We get a restating of the ship's mission as our chief engineer is beamed aboard, more of whom later, as they go out and boldly go and seek out new civilizations and stuff.
I love her who is little, oh, cool.
Yes, that's nice, isn't it? Yeah.
And Pike just sort of gives her a look.
Yeah. I mean, I know I've done a bit of griping, but really these are only niggles. That it's not any serious issues with the series. It's just things that could have easily been addressed with a bit of better casting, or a bit of better writing. But ultimately, it's an enjoyable bit of, a one-off adventure, which is exactly what we hoped this series would provide us with. A bit of meddling with the General Order 1 / Prime Directive. That's always good for a Trek wheeze. And yes, all right, so we've kind of seen this story a bit before in Next Generation, but it's done on a slightly larger canvas here, I guess. And the idea is to sort of start introducing us to the characters as well. So it's quite a bit about Pike and La'an. So yeah, I enjoyed it well enough.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. I wasn't bothered by the casting choices in the same way you were.
Not all the cast, just some of the casting
but
choices.
where I was mostly unbothered by casting choices, the only niggle I really had was T'Pring.
Mm-hmm.
They may resolve it.
Yeah. You see, I always said the problem is that the inclusion of Spock is always going to be an issue because we know so much about him. Pike, no problem. Practically a blank slate except for what happens to him eventually. But there, you can do what you like with him. And most of the other characters as well. Uhura, bit more of an issue. And yeah, Kyle's going to get a heck of a plastic surgery job at some point, but there we go. Shall we find out what other people thought?
Yeah.
We've had quite a bit of feedback, which I think probably indicates the popularity of this series.
Yeah.
We'll start with Lee, I think, from the Black Dog podcast.
Hello, chaps. It's Lee. Right, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Quick backstory. I was done with Star Trek by the time we reached episode 7 of Picard. Picard had shit the bed so spectacularly in, 2 seasons that I was just done with it. Absolutely done with Star Trek and the modern day Trek. Discovery got to season 2 and I was like, peace, I'm out. And then I tried again with Lower Decks and it's just too shrill, too haha, we're so wacky, and thinks that Easter eggs are things that you point at, put a big neon sign above, and then constantly reference as if like, hey, aren't you clever? You noticed that we said Picard 57 times and we pointed at a picture of Sulu, and then, oh look, here's Tom Paris. Not for me. Not that kind of humour isn't humour. It's just pointing at things. It's the nostalgia memberberry thing that makes my teeth grind. So, Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I come to it with my arms crossed going, go on in, impress me. I was absolutely adamant I was going to sit there and hate it and just be like, ugh. But you know what? Got to give it its chance. Then I can speak from a point of at least seeing it. I don't just judge things on a review on IO9 or nothing. So I didn't have any back history with Anson Mount's Pike or any of the cast and crew, having not seen them in Discovery. And so I sat there thinking, okay, just let's see how we get on. And I'm going to be honest with you, within 15 minutes, I think I was completely on board with a big old shit-eating grin on my face. The story itself, for episode 1, was not anything out of the ordinary. It didn't need to be. It's the first episode of any Star Trek series. You show me one first episode and show me one that's actually a good episode. But what it did have, and what it had in spades, was charm. It had charm with the cast. It had charm with the script. It didn't decide that suddenly we had to be darkness, even though it had every chance of being that way, because obviously we all know where Pike's going, and the show makes quite a big show of it, that he knows where it's going. So obviously something's happened in Discovery, so I'm just guessing he's seen it. So then you've got this whole thing of, is that going to change the man? Is it going to make him more reckless or more reticent to do anything? And that kind of forms the backbone of the first episode. Then it introduces you to the crew. All the crew get a little moment, just a little introduction. And all of them, I liked them all. There was no particular character where I sort of rolled my eyes and went, ugh. Though I will confess, as soon as one of the characters turned up with the surname of Noonien Sung, I was immediately expecting Brent Spiner to teleport onto the set and just start goggle-eyeing, walking about and asking for a check for a conservatory. But, unlike Lower Decks, it left it there. It just said her surname's Noonien Sung, and that's it. It didn't have to go Khan, eugenics. Oh, it was an actual little nod. People who knew. People who didn't pay it any mind. And the show lets you discover that if you want to, and leaves you alone if you don't. And that is the thing. This show, or this first episode especially, just leaves it to you. It writes a nice little story. It introduces you to the characters, all of which have something to do, all of which have charm and personality in spades. They've all got their own little backstories going on, but none of it makes you just suddenly think, oh, I only like that person, or the stories are only going to concentrate on that person. It all focuses around Anson Mount's Pike and his obvious destination. But I just came away with a big old smile on my face thinking, this is Trek. If you're going to modernise Trek from the original series to this, that's a perfect jump. I thought it was lovely. I really enjoyed it. I sat there thinking, there you go. They can make a good sort of modern Trek. And I couldn't wait for the next episode. And I've watched all of them for the first season. And I'm happy to be watching them again to go along with this podcast. So, thank goodness, Trek is back. Or at least in a very small sliver, because I heard Lower Decks coming back, and I couldn't give a fuck. And Picard, forget that. I'm never coming back to that ever. I don't care what they stick in the trailer, even if they made a gold-plated Enterprise D and said everyone gets a blowjob for watching it. No, I'm never watching season 3. But anyway, I look forward to what everyone else is thinking about it. But personally, I loved it. Thumbs up. See you out there. And as Pike would say, hit it.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure viewing figures for Picard season 3 would be incredible if that were the offer, but there we go.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I enjoy Lower Decks a lot, and I did enjoy the most recent series of Discovery. Season 3's bollocks, don't bother with that. Well, I mean, the main plot is. But I think this one, for me, really does get it right. So what I like about Discovery is the way the characters are written. I don't really like the plots, which are all, for me, they've got too much of a thing of the big arc. And what they seem to have done is been able to learn from Discovery and write great characters and a show with warmth, but they're doing it episodically, so they don't have to worry about the big arc. And it's always been the big arc that's bothered me in Discovery. I've liked the characters.
Yeah, it's too much of an artifice, isn't it, in
Yeah.
Discovery, yeah. And ultimately, Lower Decks, all my life. Lower Decks is a very Marmite show. I didn't think I was going to like it, and initially I didn't, but it very much grew on me, and yeah, I think you either like it or you don't, basically. If you can't get on board with the humour on it, then yeah, it's not going to work with you. You're right, it wasn't as dark as it might have been, considering the Pike situation. So
Yeah,
I
it
think,
could have been all dark.
yeah, it could.
Barrows.
Who wants a depressed captain? He doesn't really spend very long depressed. Pretty much as soon as he's beamed down to the planet, he's cheered up a bit and he's got involved in things and got a smile on his face. So yeah. Lee did say he got his Noonien Soong and Noonien Sings mixed up there. But unfortunately, that might be the effect of Picard and one too many Soongs on our in the universe. That it's a rewrited Trek, so that now it's called Noonien Soong. Oh my heavens, no. Yes.
And yeah, in terms of I don't mind the massive member berries in Lower Decks. For me, I think it's different because it's animated. I just treat it as a very different show. But I like the fact that with this, that either you get the reference or you don't, and it doesn't matter if you don't. To me, that's a mark of good writing, because you want to be able to attract new people, and you're not going to do that if you're expecting them to know things they wouldn't otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Easter eggs in this are very much in the background, like the shuttle being called Stamets, for instance.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter at all whether you know what that is, because ultimately it's not important to the plot.
Yeah.
And nobody's pointing big fingers at it, so yeah.
What did Ol make of this?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Hello, Peter and Anne-Marie. It's Ol here, and I am back after something of a hiatus. I think the last time I spoke to either of you was the glory days of Star Trek V. And the last time I was a regular correspondent to these parts, it was good old Galactica 1980, a series which I have tried my best to burn from my memory. Anyway, we're not here to talk about Galactica 1980, and let's face it, we never will again. We're here to talk about Strange New Worlds. And I love Strange New Worlds, and thank you very much for the opportunity to watch this series again, because, I don't know, I find it hard to find time to watch TV shows, and sometimes it's nice to have a reason to sit down and actually watch something. So, I'm going to really enjoy this watch through again. Spoiler warning, I've seen the whole lot, so I will do my best not to spoil you guys, because I know you haven't yet. But yeah, it's a great show. So specific thoughts about this first episode, which is slightly confusing me as far as I can tell, called Strange New Worlds. First of all, how good is it to have that opening monologue back? I get why with Deep Space Nine and Voyager they didn't do it, but I miss space, the final frontier. And I think having Pike do it, he does it. It would be very easy at this point to do a William Shatner impression, and he doesn't do that. We get Pike's version of it, not Kirk's version of it, and I think it's just so good to have it back. I thought, watching this, particularly for a second time, it was an interesting choice for them to focus so much on T'Pring, particularly considering where that story ends up. But just generally, it's a fascinating part of Spock's character that is virgin territory as far as we are concerned as the audience. We see a far more buttoned up and closed-off version of Spock in the original series, even though in theory he sort of opens up a lot more in that show. He's far more comfortable around Pike and Una and the rest of this crew than I feel he is in the original series. Ethan Peck, though, is absolutely nailing Spock. I think he's got it here even better than he had it in Discovery. I didn't mind him in Discovery, but in fairness to him, he was playing Spock as a sort of distressed person rather than like standard day-to-day Spock, whereas this is Spock. And I mean, he's just great. I'm not always a fan of recasting people, but Ethan Peck is amazing. So yeah, crack on. Brilliant. In terms of the story here, it's actually quite a 60s show, isn't it? It's a more primitive planet, very much like 20th century Earth. Got two factions with a long ongoing war, weapons of mass destruction. It's a very Cold War era story. We grew up with a lot of these sorts of stories in our science fiction, but I think what Strange New Worlds does better than the original series, because just TV has, fun enough, progressed in the last 50, 60 years, is that it links that story into the character of Pike far more than 60s Trek would ever have done with Kirk and Spock and that. In this one, the Kylies are shown, their possible future, which obviously has resonance for us because it's our actual future and does look like one we might be heading for. But it dovetails that with Pike coming to terms with his future that he's seen, and as far as he knows is fixed. And it gives the Kylies, that push to, well, maybe you can't, maybe you can change your future. Maybe you can't, maybe you can. I've got to admit that I kind of feel that if you went back to this planet in about 10 years, they would have blown themselves up anyway. But that's because I'm in a particularly cynical place when it comes to humanity at the moment, and I should probably just cheer up and enjoy my my Star Trek for what it is. Anyway, I think that's all the thoughts I've got. I look forward to seeing what other people have to say. But it's lovely to be able to feed back to you again, and I will endeavour to do my best to follow through and actually do the rest of the series now. So thank you for the podcast, and bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye. We look forward to you following through, we have actually seen the whole series. We having been bitten by Picard season 2, we figured we were going to watch the whole thing and then decide whether we were going to cover it or not, and it's like, yes, okay, we're covering it. But we will keep references to future episodes to a minimum just in case folk haven't.
Yeah.
But I'm imagining, because we left it a bit of time since it came out, I would imagine most people probably have watched it all the way through at this point. But anyway, yeah, Ethan Pecs, as I'm now calling him, he's okay. But I mean, nobody's going to be Len Nimoy. That's the problem. That was such a singular performance that. And I don't quite understand why he's a lot more unbuttoned with this crew than he is with later on in the original series. Surely his trajectory was that he started very buttoned up and then gradually relaxed as things went on. But no, apparently not. Mystery.
Well, you don't know how being under Kirk is going to change him compared to Pike. And also you don't know what's going to happen in the in-between period. I
mean, one thing they do get right, which comes across in the Cage and Menagerie, is that Spock and Pike clearly had a very close relationship, to the point that Spock's ready to give away his career to save that man.
And Jim's a bit jealous, isn't he?
Yeah, and so that the fact we've got that in this series completely works. I don't have an issue with that, but I do think he seems a lot more unbuttoned than he should be. But niggles.
Who else have we heard from?
Hey, let's see now. Let's hear from Sampo and Yona. I think Yona is watching Trek for the first time.
Oh.
Hello. So we just watched episode 1 of Strange New Worlds called Strange New Worlds. What happens in it? Who cares? I mean, this was the first episode of Star Trek you ever watched. What did you think? Well, no plot points. I mean, in general. I mean, it was a lot more serious than I expected. This series is taking itself quite seriously. Yeah, no satires anywhere. I don't think we can compare this to Buck Rogers. Well, I mean, you can if you want to. Was this better or worse? I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I don't understand. Why did he this guy with the beard? Pike. where did he has a fireplace?
Okay, that's the thing.
And now he had to go to a foreign planet and tell them what to do.
Yeah, a bit of a white savior syndrome there, I'll admit. Okay, Star Trek usually is about...
I kind of hated it.
Well, Star Trek usually is about optimism and everyone working together and all that. But I have to admit that the way it was shown that he solved this centuries-long conflict by making a speech, that was maybe a bit thick. Or a bit too much.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, I liked it in general.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
It's a little puzzled for me.
Yeah, well, I mean...
I don't know if I should take it very seriously or like the seriousness, or should I just like...
I mean, I don't think it's that serious. It's pretty sort of light-hearted, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there are...
Yeah, and the humor comes from this wordplays, like I'm all ears and stuff, which is quite fun to imagine what the ear guy would imagine, because I understood that he takes things like literally.
Yeah, he's a logic person.
Yeah, logic persons do that, I guess.
Yeah. I can relate. So yeah. So yeah, I can sense that you're not totally on board here, but
not yet.
Let's see. But maybe the shift from Buck Rogers season 2 to this might have been a bit much. I mean, your head might be spinning from the sort of change of direction.
Yeah, I guess.
Well, at least there are women doing stuff in this series.
Yes, there are lots of women. Still, all the men did all the work.
No, they didn't. Now that you're
who was on the planet?
I mean, the security officer, and then and of course, it was Nurse Chapel who did the actual thing, and
with she cooked this polyp-juice potion.
Yeah, exactly. Any advanced enough science is indistinguishable from magic. Someone said that. Yeah.
Was it that the bearded guy's life ends to something, or is it just that he's just gonna disabled? What was?
Well, that was a bit. I mean, as far as he gets into an accident and goes into a wheelchair and is unable to speak. So.
Okay, but that life doesn't have to end in this,
does
it?
Well, no, but it's a sort of a downgrade to where he is now.
I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can see this was a bit of a culture shock for you, so let's see how this goes. I mean, I'm not forcing you to watch this. So.
It wasn't what I expected, even though I'm not sure what I was expecting. And maybe I was expecting this, but I didn't know it. But
yeah, you don't really watch much science fiction, so
no, I don't.
And Buck Rogers hardly count.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't.
Well, this will be a sort of the Star Trek virgin's experience with Star Trek, and not. I mean,
okay. I guess it's like any first time. You expect something special, and what you get is a little bit awkward, and you just want to forget it, and then you just keep on going. So
it maybe turns good.
It turns good eventually when you come to trust each other.
Well, I liked it, but I like Star Trek in general. So.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm giving it a shot.
Okay, let's see what episode 2 brings.
Whoop whoop.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Yeah, okay. I wondered where that was going for a while there. It's certainly true that if you've not seen the menagerie and or at the very least don't know much of that story, it's not just that Pike is disfigured and in a wheelchair. He can't even speak. He communicates by buzzing. So he's pretty much his future is pretty much done. There's not much left of him, bless him. Starfleet doesn't really know what to do with him. But then, do I spoil the menagerie? This is a bit weird, isn't it? Yeah. But
I think leave it at that.
Leave it at that. Yeah,
that's enough.
Maybe it's worth just, if you've got access to it, Sampo showing Yona the menagerie and just seeing what she makes of that. I don't know. It has to be said, the tone of this series changes.
Yeah, it does.
There are some lighter episodes, some more serious episodes. They try out a few different styles of sci-fi, shall we say?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not going to be all like this for every episode. So if that's what's troubling you slightly, if it feels a bit over serious, don't worry. That's not going to be the case with every episode.
Yeah, some of them are serious, but a bit like a lot of other sorts of shows, you have sort of different genres. Like a show will explore a different genre, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, most Trek series you'll get a comedy episode.
Yeah.
You'll get a perhaps more of a sort of horror influenced episode, and yeah,
Strangely
World
usually
is no exception.
Going back to the past / cosplay episode as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Thinking of although it didn't feature much, did it? But you had remember Kira and Dax in them?
Yes, well, the holosuites, they turn up in their medieval outfits, wouldn't they, from time to time? But they never set an entire episode. Well, that's not
the
true.
Merry Men of Next Gen.
Yeah, actually, no. Deep Space Nine did do a holodeck episode, and that was Dr. Bashir, I presume, wasn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, and yeah, I did just. Don't even try and compare this to Buck Rogers season 2 particularly. No. That's a whole other beast. But we don't know why he's got a fireplace either. That is an odd feature.
Very. And yes, you're right about the white saviour syndrome, but that's, like Ol said in his feedback, it is a very sort of Cold War era story. It is a very original Trek 1960s sort of story.
Yeah.
And I think in a way that's done deliberately.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any more of those. I think because it's episodic. It's not like this is what you're going to get every week.
Yeah.
What did the Llama God make of this?
Llama got the Ficisia, a strange new world, a new fantastic starship crew. They've got their own show. They boldly go. Don't say we're only dreaming of strange new worlds. Well, and this is a thing, isn't it? For the first time in a very long time, we have a new Star Trek show, which is Star Trek. It's just Star Trek, that's it. There's no bloody space stations, being on their own far from home, animated homages, or parallel universes, or anything. It's just Star Trek, and it's bloody great. Now, you're going to have to forgive me, because I have, of course, seen the entire season by now, if that's allowed, and I absolutely bloody love it. And as I say, one of the best things about it, and you even see it in this episode, is how they've just taken Star Trek basically back to its core concept, which isn't to say that I haven't loved the other series. Of course I have. I love Lower Decks. I absolutely love Deep Space Nine. Still remains my favourite Star Trek series, I think, although there might be a contender coming up very, very soon. But yeah, they're taking it back to the simple ideas of a different story every week about encounters on, strange new worlds kind of thing on board the USS Enterprise. And yeah, and the best thing they've done with it is that they've remembered that it is on the Enterprise and it is Star Trek, because they've allowed Anson Mount to do the monologue for this episode. Yes, the monologue gets back at last. Other series have seemed to have shied away from it. I don't know whether they've been ashamed or just trying to forge their own destiny. There's all that nonsense with Discovery about how the famous Alexander Courage fanfare comes at the end of the opening credits music because it's not quite Star Trek yet. They're working towards it. Well, yeah, here we are. It's Star Trek set on the Enterprise with Pike, Spock, Uhura, other people on board. It's just as well they let him do the monologue, because otherwise I'd have been firing a trilithium rocket at the sun, let me tell you that. It is, however, a little bit more muted than either Kirk or Picard's deliveries, and the theme tune itself is lacking in something. I kind of wanted to be a bit more bombastic, really, but it's not bad, and the fact they've got the monologue, I mean, yeah, that gets me going every week. And this is a classic Trek story they've done here. I mean, it's very reminiscent of the Armageddon Factor, which is what we just watched recently when we were watching the adventures with those old scientists. The whole idea of non-interference, breaking General Order 1 in order to do the morally right thing, getting away with it due to a weird technicality. Yeah, I mean, that's the sort of classic science fiction idea that classic Trek would have done so well, and it was done really well here, and I liked it. And also we get a bit of consequences for actions in Discovery, but also not really lingering over them as well, so this episode really is its own thing. I think the thing that stops this episode from being perfect is that people came to love Pike in Discovery for this sort of warm, compassionate, kind captain that he was, and in this one he is a bit mopey at the very start, but I'm also quite willing to forgive that, given that that's how we first meet Pike, way back in the cage, and given the experiences his characters go through, it kind of makes a bit of sense. And also, as I've said before, this is echoes of Deep Space Nine's pilot, with Sisko not wanting to stay on the station either, so yeah, you get the leading man who doesn't know if they want to be there, and then they learn through the course of the episode that they want to be there, and that's a great journey to take the viewers on as well. So yeah, I don't dislike that at all, actually. And definitely, as he settles in to get to know the crew, we'll settle in to get to know the crew, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be great. And I'll go into them more as the season goes on, I'm sure, but I do love this crew. Ethan Peck seems to have settled settled into the role of Spock, and a Spock who funks clearly. There's some good new additions, and I really like, particularly, we see a bit more of her in this episode, I like this version of Nurse Chapel. You could say that it's kind of difficult to square her with a Nurse Chapel that we see in the original series, but I mean, let's be honest, what did the 60s show really give female characters to do a lot of the time? So yeah, I can forgive them for making this Nurse Chapel something else, and I'm sure maybe at some point something will happen that can kind of breach that gap, but yeah, I'm enjoying this iteration of the character very much. And I also did particularly like the whole running gag through this episode of Pike asking for Kirk to come on board when everybody knows that Kirk and Pike only met very briefly. Again, we just saw that recently in the menagerie. But yes, it's not James Kirk, it's his older brother Sam Kirk. So yeah, that was just a great gag, and I was very amused by that. And there's little touches as well, like they're keeping the designs faithful in a way, but updated to the original designs, like the Starfleet headquarters space station that we see them on at the end. It's got those classic dome-style designs, but it gives a reason as well. It's the seapods when they escape from Earth, and that's another thing. I love the idea that Pike solves the conflict on Kylie's 279, not by spinning around or doing the locomotion, but by showing the mistakes made by Earth and of showing our future that they might learn from our mistakes. And again, that's really good. That's proper Trek. And I like that they acknowledge that something has to give in our timeline before things can end up being Star Trek the way it would be. In fact, that's one of the things I really wish that we had seen from one of the Star Trek series at some point, because there's that line from Deep Space Nine, it's easier to be a saint in paradise, but we never find out how the Federation becomes a paradise. It's something to aspire towards, absolutely. We never see quite how we get there from here, and that's a Trek series I'd really like to see, and which is what Enterprise should have been. But anyway, I digress. It was just nice that they kind of showed and acknowledged that. So yeah, this is just a really great way of doing Trek. Just they're going to go out there, they're going to explore strange new worlds on an Enterprise that looks beautiful. I said before when we saw her in Discovery, this Enterprise doesn't seem like a reinvention. She's not like the movie Enterprise, any of the movie Enterprises, original series, or the Abrams movies. This is just the Enterprise, but as if she'd been done on a modern day TV budget. So yeah, it's just perfect, really. I really, really enjoyed it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing the next few episodes. And I do not apologise in advance for how gushy I want to be about this whole damn thing. So I hope everybody is as at least non-negative about this as I have been. I hope everybody has been able to have a good summer. Ian has somehow managed to avoid swimming with shit, both metaphorically and literally. And until next time,
yes, thank you, sir. I'm glad we went on holiday the week before they emptied all the crap into the sea. Good grief.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. There are echoes of the DS9 pilot.
Yeah, there are. But I think this is less... it doesn't take very long for Pike to suddenly start feeling like he's found his groove again. Whereas it's literally just sort of the last few scenes of Emissary that Cisco realises actually, okay, no, I'm all right being here.
Yeah.
And even then, for quite a bit of the first season, he's still not completely sure. So, yeah.
I think the other thing I like as well is that the reason that we liked Pike in Discovery, those of us who watched Discovery, was because he was so warm and compassionate, and they haven't gone, oh, you like Pike, but let's write him different, or as Lee said, potentially write him dark. They haven't done that. That it is the same character that we loved. Yeah. Which is good.
I'm glad it wasn't just me that felt that Chapel didn't feel anything like Chapel. And yes, I can understand... Really, there wasn't much to her in the original series. Although, arguably, I mean, they didn't give her much to do either. But I think Nichelle Nichols made more of that part, I guess.
Yeah.
But I do think that actually they're far better off having characters that we don't know how they're going to turn out. And there's no reason to have Chapel on board at this time. They've had to bend things a bit to have her there, so she's a civilian. Why bother in the first place? Particularly if they're not going to keep the character as it was. You may as well just have a new nurse that's like this person. Anyways. And finally, we've heard from Puri.
Hello. Puri here to talk about the Strange New World episode, Strange New Worlds. And I'm so happy to be going back through this series. I enjoyed it thoroughly the first time around. And I'm really looking forward to digging a bit more into it and rewatching the episodes. So first, a couple of things just in general about the series that we see here, because obviously we want to talk about spaceships. We see a single nacelle ship like the old Hermes class scouts from the original TOS technical manual, which is brilliant. I like that. And we obviously have the lovely Discovery era reimagining of the TOS Enterprise. It is a lovely ship, and we get to see a lot of it in the opening titles. And I like the opening theme. Initially, I had, and it still niggles occasionally, the opening theme sometimes sounds like the Trek theme you'd get in a video game when they were too tight to fork out for royalties for the soundtrack composer, so they'd make something which sounded vaguely like a Star Trek theme tune, like Star Trek Online has, or a myriad of Star Trek games. We would have like a sort of It sounds 90% of the way there, but distinct enough that the copyright police aren't going to come and get you. But it's really grown on me. I kind of love it being sort of a big orchestral version of the TOS theme, or at least based around it. But it's got that lovely percussive backbeat in it, which just gives you a good sense of boldly going. Also, another thing to talk about, sets are gorgeous. And the uniforms, I actually really like their I know, Starfleet's constantly rejigging uniforms all over the place. Going from the Discovery uniform to something different in a mere couple of years. But I actually quite like the kind of, again, it looks like the TOS without being, it looks close enough as a modern reimagining of the TOS. And they've put in those annoying bits for cosplayers, and each shirt has the department logo in tiny across the shoulders, just to, as I say, annoy people who try to make costumes themselves, which is something apparently CBS are doing now. Episode itself, I think this is one of the strongest starts. It faces into the fact that we know Pike is going to die, and indeed actually using Pike, having the knowledge of that, is a really good way of including the fact that we as an audience know that the future can be set. We know, for example, that Spock is in no danger. We know that Pike is in no danger. We know Uhura's in no danger. We know the Enterprise is in no danger. But almost baking it into the show actually really works. It's almost letting you know, yes, we know this is an issue and we are going to be writing plots around this without getting painful on it. And I think it works really well. The actual situation of First Contact that goes awry, and a nice tie-in to end of Season 2 Discovery as well, with, that's the way they discovered, the species discovered warp drive, was detecting the big battle that went on. Quite a neat idea. I liked the sort of First Contact, Spock being beamed down in the suit shorts. That's, again, there's fun in it. They're having a lot of fun. We got the mad chase through the ship. They abduct someone and knock them out, and they've only got missing time. They're literally being the invading aliens, and there's that lovely tie-in to the day the Earth stood still with their final solution of basically coming in and Pike absolutely kicking what will soon be called the Prime Directive into the bin, just to stop this war by basically saying there's a big federation out there. Also, some rather dark looks, and they like the way they've kind of rejigged Star Trek's future history to kind of include current events. Like it in a way that seems all too terrifyingly present, but at least it means that potentially my ancestors might enjoy the Star Trek world. I'm not particularly going to precipitate World War III to do it, but I did like the way they were kind of tidying up that stuff without seeming like without seeming like we're straining to join dots of continuity. The characters, I still love Pike. He's just a lovely sort of fluffy, cuddly captain, even though they did have him kind of haunted in this. But he does have fun with things, and I just love the relaxed feel of the crew, and I like the fact that the crew seem to have been together for a while. Ortega's sort of, when the guy's escaping, Chapel, Ortega's, and Mbanga all shouting an old mission, and that sort of that sort of idea, it really gave you the impression that the crew have been together for a while, even though we have some new rotations coming in with, for example, Uhura, with La'an. There are some new people. So yeah, overall, I think it's a very strong start to the series, and I'm just thoroughly happy to be back watching it again. So I will feed back for the next episode, because you tried to stop me watching this stuff. But until that time, keep up the good work, and I will say bye for now. So bye for now.
Bye. Yeah, you're right. It's fun, and that's why I like Lower Decks. But that's one of the things that attracted me to Pike and to this. That Pike's nearly always got a twinkle in his eye, hasn't he?
Yes.
And they've carried that through. And yeah, you're right. The crew do know each other, and we get that from them shouting out whatever it was they shout out.
Yeah, it was a bit odd, but yes, that's cool. I suppose it is. But Chapel seems to know about it, even though she's only just got to the ship. So, anyway, yeah. Thank you for pointing out the parallels between this and the day the Earth stood still, because having not seen the day the Earth stood still, wasn't aware of that. So that's really useful. Thank you, Puri.
And apparently that ship we won NATO was a Hermes class, so presumably it doesn't work properly, always late, decidedly unreliable.
Yes, can never find the planet it's supposed to be sent to.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a reference to the old technical manual, and it looked crap in that as well. So yeah, single nasal, not right.
No, like a unicycle.
And this take on the, for want of a better phrase, original series uniform is probably their best effort yet, I think. It's an interesting variety of styles as well, but ultimately I think it's probably the most satisfactory, so yeah, go with that. So thank you to everybody who's fed back.
Thank you.
Feel free to send in your thoughts if you'd like to. There's a variety of ways of doing it, as explained at the end of this podcast. You can also join the Facebook group as well, which you're more than welcome to do so if you haven't already. And yes, it's always interesting to hear what people have made of an episode and to sort of make the little voyage together through the season as we work our way through. Next time, we'll be covering Children of the Comet. And we'll be recording on Thursday the 8th of September. So if you've got any feedback to send in, do it by then. Until then, take care. Cheery bye.
Bye bye.
The opening music for this podcast was provided by the talented Drew Barker.
The artwork was created by Andy Pelastides.
All music referenced is for illustrative purposes only, and no copyright infringement is intended.
Find our website at borgcast.libsyn.com.
And we have a YouTube channel as well.
You can find the Borgcast playouts on Spotify for your listening pleasure.
Visit our Tumblr site at borgcast.tumblr.com, where you'll find images accompanying the episodes discussed in this cast.
Send emails or MP3s to borgcast@gmail.com.
Or you can contact us via Twitter on rev_org or borgcastammo. #Borgcast.
Shut it down!